From the studios of Ave Maria Radio in Ann Arbor, this is Veterans Radio. And now, here's your host, Dale Throneberry.
Good morning, America, and welcome to Veterans Radio and our new home on Ave Maria Radio here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we're very, very excited to be back on the air after a 3-month hiatus. And I want to just let you know a little bit about who we are. Again, my name is Dale Throneberry, and I am a former Army aviator with the 195th Assault Helicopter Company in Vietnam in 1969. My wingman, who will be joining us a little bit later on today, is Bob Gould. He's in Russell Springs, Kentucky right now, and he's headed back to Michigan. He's a former airborne medic with the 101st Airborne Division. And in studio today is Gary Lilly in Navy Seabee in Chu Lai, Vietnam in 1966. And welcome back on the air, Gary.
Great to be back, Dale, Ken, and looking forward to a lot of shows here from Ave Maria Network.
That's right. And trying to keep us on time and running all the equipment in the control room is Ken Rogie, an Air Force veteran of 28 years. Also worked with Armed Forces Radio and with Armed Forces Television and everything else. How you, Ken?
Oh, it's good. All right. Now I'm back on here. All right. Thanks, Steve. Just new control room, new equipment, so hopefully things will be all right today. But it's all new experience.
Well, it's going to be exciting, that's for sure. And we've got a couple of things I want to just tell our new listening audience out there. Hopefully we've picked up some new people just listening to us here in Ann Arbor on 990 AM. Veterans Radio, as you hopefully know, is dedicated to all the men and women who have served or are serving in the Armed Forces of America. And our mission is to provide all veterans with a voice, and especially to educate veterans regarding their rights and privileges that they earned while serving their country, and finally to provide a forum for veterans to discuss all these issues. Our ulterior motive, of course, is to educate America regarding the history of our military and those who have served so honorably throughout our history. As you heard earlier, Veterans Radio is produced by veterans for veterans. Veterans Radio provides a common place for veterans to sound off about their issues and to share their experiences, good and bad. We're here to let you know that your buddies are still out there to help you. So if you ever have any questions or comments, just go to our website at veteransradio.net, click on Contact, and let us know what you want to know and what you think, and we'll take care of you from there. And we've got a couple of news stories. This is what we normally do at the beginning of our show, as we talk about some issues that are going on out there in the world that affect people that are in the military, veterans, and retired military personnel. One that I thought was rather interesting, Ken, was the committee votes to give more help to the war-wounded families. It says war-wounded service veterans and their families now have a stronger team of advisors and advocates to guide them through care, recovery, and disability evaluation under a package of initiatives unanimously approved on March 20th by the House Armed Services Committee. This is a result. It's called the Wounded Warrior Assistance Act, and it's the first and unusually swift legislation taken by the lawmakers to address a host of problems encountered by the outpatients at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center that we've been seeing and hearing about on the news recently. This is pretty exciting stuff, I think. The full House is expected to vote on this package soon, even as an independent task force and various government investigations continue to study what really went wrong at Walter Reed. I have no idea what went wrong there, but it's interesting. I have a quote here, if I can put my hands on it, that talks about, George Washington said many years ago that the willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive how veterans of earlier wars were treated by their nation. That's George Washington, and I think that's a very appropriate quote, don't you?
It's amazing how timely that is, how long it's remained true. This country's had some great history of taking care of the vets, and it's had some very bad experience. The vets have. They were just treated horribly, like after the Civil War and so on. Mm-hmm. And again after the Vietnam War, and now it's looking like our troops today are not being taken care of in some places as they should be. In other places, the care is superb.
Well, we know that the VA does a great job, 99% of the time, as far as treating veterans and people that are coming back from overseas currently. And I know that with our local VA facilities here in Ann Arbor, I really have had no problems whatsoever, other than initially getting in.
I was at the emergency room of the VA hospital last night, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
there's great support. The VA hospital here in Ann Arbor is terrific. I've been going there for my care. I had outside insurance, but I still went to the VA hospital.
Oh, you cannot compare to say anything bad about the medical care at the VA facilities. They're absolutely phenomenal. It's interesting that almost all of the VA hospitals are located with teaching universities. So you've got very, 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 very good practitioners there to take care of you.
I think some of the issues probably has to do with the number of personnel that are available to help out along the way. I mean, the doctors and everything are great. It's, some of the support personnel that the budget cuts and so forth are taken care of.
One of the things we need to get done is Congress needs to pass the assured funding for the VA hospital systems. Right now, they have to renew it every year, and veterans should be able to count on it being there every year.
Hey, I got a story here I want to tell you guys about. The Tuskegee Airmen are being recognized 6 decades after their World War II mission and coming home to a country that discriminated against them because they were black. The gratitude was expressed Thursday when a group of the legendary black aviators received congressional gold medals during a ceremony in the Capitol Rotunda. The award is the most prestigious Congress has to offer. And these guys, it's just amazing what they have done. They were combat fighter pilots, discriminated against. They were put into their own unit. They painted their tails on their planes red so they could be distinguished from all the other units. And they had a phenomenal record. The report says that in all of World War II, escorting bombers, they never lost one. That's an amazing
I think what's
record.
fascinating, you got to remember that's one of the stories that we first covered, Ken, a couple of years ago. We went down to the Detroit VA, the Dingle VA hospital down there, and we ran into Colonel Alexander.
Right.
And it turns out that he had been a prisoner of war along with another 2 other people that we ran into that were prisoners of war. We'll talk about more about that story later as we go along.
And Colonel Jefferson was in Washington for the award ceremony.
Oh, was he?
Yes, he was there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
He was a great guest.
Yeah, he was a good guest.
Just a sample of things. There was a couple of other things I needed to cover right away. One piece of news I wanted to get in here was, it sounds kind of funny, this is Sesame Street special on deployed parents.
Right.
Sesame Street special, When Parents Are Deployed, will be rebroadcast this coming Monday, April 9th on PBS stations across the country. This primetime special, hosted by Cuba Gooding Jr., reveals candid and intimate moments with the parents, caregivers, and children impacted by deployment. For more information, check your local TV listings, or you can download the program at the Sesame Workshop website. Sounds like a great program. And there's a couple of other issues that we will talk about later on. Moving right along to one of our favorite segments of the program, Welcome Home. Welcome Home is a special weekly segment of Veterans Radio dedicated to American troops returning from overseas. If you know of any units or individuals you'd like to see welcomed home on Veterans Radio, send us an email and we'll give them a rousing welcome home from Veterans Radio and a grateful nation. Today we are welcoming home. Where did they go? Here they are. The 15 Royal Navy sailors and Marines that received a wonderful welcome back in England after being released from Iran. Over 100 Marines at Fort Detrick's Dam Security Unit 3 returned home earlier last week. Troops of the 240th Engineer Group of the Maine Army National Guard are expected to arrive home. Actually, they arrived home on Thursday. And finally, community members in Elgin, Illinois, honored Sergeant First Class Randy Henk in a welcome home celebration on the 1st of April. On behalf of a grateful nation and all of us at Veterans Radio, we want to say welcome home. And we're back on Veterans Radio, and I just wanted to remind everybody that our Welcome Home segment is being brought to you by the Marine Corps Scholarship Fund offered through Ave Maria University. This is a great program that is available to Marines that are returning home from Iraq, and my understanding is pretty much for Marines and survivors of Marines and relatives of Marines and so forth, that they can pick up some scholarship money at Ave Maria University down in Florida. And for more information, they need to go to the Ave Maria University website, which is avemariauniversity.com, I believe. AveMaria.edu, excuse me, on that. Gary, we've got a story we've got a guest on the phone, I understand.
Yes, we do. Please welcome Rick Connor from down in Russell Springs, Kentucky. He's a member of the Patriot Guard Riders. And today the Patriot Guard Riders are doing a memorial service for Rick's uncle, who still remains MIA in Korea, up there at the Frozen Chosin. Rick, welcome to Veterans Radio. Tell us what you're doing today.
Hey, glad to be here. We're a crisp 27 degrees here in Russell Springs today, and we're getting ready to do a memorial for George Connor, which was a corporal in the United States Army, and he was actually in the Navy in World War II. Got out and enlisted in the Army for the Korean War, and was listed as missing in action December 2nd, 1950 at Chosin Reservoir.
I always heard about the Marines being up there, but you forget that the Army was up there also.
That's correct.
What year
there was about 3,000 of his division, the 32nd Infantry Division, at Chosin Reservoir.
And so what year was that?
That was 1950.
That was after we stormed up there to the Yalu River almost, and at that time the Chinese came storming back for the first time.
That was there was actually an 80-hour onslaught there with George and his division that actually ended up in the majority of their demise at that point, of course, as you know.
Right. So that caught everybody by surprise. So what's going on today? What kind of a memorial service are you doing for him, Rick?
Well, we've got the Patriot Guard Riders coming in, the Russell Springs ROTC's coming, the 101st Airborne Division Honor Guard's coming, and we've got a bugler also from the 101st Airborne Division Band. There has been a memorial brass marker set up in Jamestown. It's been there for many years. His mother died about 13 years ago and would not allow anything to be done, thinking and hoping and praying, I guess, that he would come home someday. His brother Dudley, my uncle, is 87, which is also a Korean War veteran. He was in the Navy, actually, in a battleship, corresponding back and forth with George there on the land to sea. And the last letter that Dudley received from his brother, they had defeated the Koreans and thought he'd be home for Christmas, and then, of course, little did they know the Chinese had entered there at Chosin Reservoir.
How old was George at the time? Do you have any idea?
George was 23, and he had already pulled 2 years in the Navy and was only in the Army about 6 or 7 months.
How many of people will be? What brought about this memorial service? It's not the traditional time of year.
Well, my Uncle Dudley, I'm very close to him, or have been getting very close to him in the last few years, and I discovered each time I went home from his house, the main thing I always got out of this guy was he always talks about his brother, skipping rocks and building tree houses and taking a little nip of the brandy schnapps and getting in trouble by their dad and so on and so forth. And
sounds like an American kid.
Yeah, November. This past November, I talked to Dudley, and I said, Dudley, have you ever done anything for your brother? And he said, no, other than put that marker up at the square, we've done nothing. And I said, why don't we put together a big memorial if I can get permission from you and your sisters? And he said, Rick, I'm just too old to do something like that. And I said, well, I'm not. And he said, if you'll run with it, I'll help as much as I possibly can. And we're sitting here today, and we've got a very, very sunny day and a bunch of Patriot Guard riders that are just ready to rock and roll.
Well, best of luck to you. Have a great memorial service, and maybe we'll have you on again on Veterans Radio, and you can give us a follow-up to it. And you can tell us more about the Patriot Guard Riders down the road, okay?
That would be fantastic.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rick, for being...
Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your interest and your continued patriotism with the United States Armed Forces.
I understand you're a veteran.
Yes, I spent 7 years in the United States Army. The last 4 was at Fort Campbell with the 101st Airborne Division, 2nd and 44th Air Defense Artillery.
Well, you guys that jump out of planes. Okay, Rick, thanks for having us on, for being on Veterans Radio.
Hey, thank you for all your continued service.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a great example of what we can do here on Veterans Radio. We just get stories. People call in. We run into them. One of our producers, Bob Gould, who's down there in Russell Springs, Kentucky, just came across these people on his way home.
They stopped in a diner. There they were, and Bob called on the cell phone. You have to have them on.
That's right.
You know what he was talking about, the mother isn't that so typical? The mothers will never give up on their sons, ever.
Oh, I can certainly understand that.
I've heard of a lot of instances like that where the mother will not allow any memorial service. They still hold out hope that their son can come back.
Well, we remember we did that story with the filmmakers that went back to Vietnam, and with the sisters, and they tracked down the body of the brother that had been missing for 35 years. And
that was In the Shadow of the Blade.
Right, the same producers.
Right.
That did that. And I mean that was a fascinating story, and just continues to be fascinating how we keep unearthing remains, and thankfully through science today we're able to figure out through DNA to identify these people.
And if you remember, we had what was his name on, who was the medic over at Cam Duck, and he went on leave, R&R, and waiting the last hop back, he sat at the dirt runway to join his unit and listen on the radio as they were overrun, and he wouldn't quit until those people were brought home. And last year they finally found all 11 of them and brought them home. The Canadians were supposed to do a strip mine in Vietnam, and through the Veterans Initiative program and a lot of active Vietnam veterans, they got it held up until they were able to go in there and look over the site, brought back all 11.
Wow. I mean, those are the kind of stories, and those are the stories that we want to tell you, our listeners out there. So again, if you have somebody who has a great story, just have them contact us, and we'll be more than happy to get them on the air. In fact, that's how our whole program started. I met a neighbor of mine who had been in World War II, and I just wondered who this old guy, raking the leaves down the block was. And I went down and talked to him, and it turned out he had a fascinating story. He had been involved in in the Normandy invasion, and he hadn't talked to anybody, his wife said, in almost 60 years about it, but he just unloaded. He says, "Oh, you're a veteran." And next thing you know, he's talking. I said, "These are the stories that we need to get on the air." And,
exactly.
And Bob and I and the two of you and Ken and Gary, we all got together and we said, "Yeah, this is what we want to do." And so we've been doing it for a little over 3 years now. So anyway, we are here for you and for your stories. And I wanted to Gary, you were in Chu Lai in Vietnam in 1966. Can you tell us a little bit about what your experiences were there?
Well, I was a CB over there, and initially we worked 86-hour weeks building the base. And after a while, after we got the base built and they were kind to us, they gave us Sunday afternoons off, and that cut us down to an 82-hour work week.
Oh, is that all?
That's all. But, we were surrounded by Marines, and we saw these guys living in holes in the ground and sleeping on the dirt. And so our job was to build support facilities for the Marines. When we first got to Chu Lai, the airstrip there was a Martian matting, steel matting runway. And at either end, it was 3,500 feet long. At either end, there was artillery firing in each direction. They would stop firing to let a plane take off and land. And there was artillery on the inland side, constantly firing. The end of the runway had a arrestor hook, just like they have on aircraft carriers for the attack jets that were flying support missions for the Marines. It wasn't long enough for them, and they would hook on with it. Every now and then we see a plane taking off with JATO, the old jet-assisted takeoff. That was, and most Marines, if they had cover, they were living in a tent, and that's what it was like when we arrived. When we left, it looked like a small city. I've never seen so much construction in all my life. LSTs pulling in on the river and dropping off materials. A lot of bombs and a lot of artillery rounds, and then the bad guys would be on the other side, and at night they'd fire their green tracers in there trying to set it off, and our guys would get mad, and the red tracers would go back out. It was kind of a lively area. And while we were there, the perimeter moved out further and further and further, and we ended up building a fire base out in the boondocks for the Marines Hill 35, which later on the AmeriCal division took over, and those guys called it Fat City. It was so far in the rear. So the experience there was working long hours, being very motivated by looking at the Marines around us and the conditions that they were in. And it was it ranged from there was one 10-day stretch in the 130s, but what it lacked in temperature, it made up for in humidity. And as my luck usually runs, my squad was nailing steel roofs on during that period of time. And Dale, this is the truth. Every time I see a chicken in a rotisserie, I flash back to those days.
kind of feel like you're in the frying pan yourself.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, those of us that were in Vietnam, we know that 130 degrees and 130% humidity is it's like a day in the beach. We
had M14s, and on the way over, my unit had been over there the year before they got sent over in the middle of a deployment. And the guys that had been there told me, don't oil your rifle. Wipe it down every day with solvent, because otherwise it'll rust underneath the oil. And I thought, they're trying to get the new guy. And so I oiled my rifle just as you're supposed to. About 2 days later, I looked underneath the oil. There it was, rusting. They were telling me the truth. That humidity, I don't know which was worse, the humidity or the heat.
Well, I can remember that myself. Just getting off the plane, it's like a blast furnace.
Yeah.
Going in there, and you kind of look around the corner of the door, going, "I'm not sure I want to get off here."
If you remember the movie Platoon, where they dropped the ramp, and
right.
you could almost feel the heat, and you saw the red dust, and the
absolutely.
smells.
Absolutely. Ken, you were overseas in Thailand.
Yep.
And
sure was.
he suffered in Thailand in the tents of Thailand, with the red dirt and all that other stuff, right?
Oh, Dale, I got to tell you how hard it was for me. You guys had it made. I mean, you were in Nam and sloshing in the mud and the monsoons and having the bullets fired at you and everything. I suffered. I mean, I was in Thailand, and I had to live in a barracks with a maid service that came in and made our bed every day, shined our shoes, did our laundry, and had to eat in a mess hall 3 meals a day, and I worked in an air-conditioned building.
Can somebody hit the violin soundtrack here?
Can you imagine suffering through all that?
Can't imagine it all. Boy, what you missed out on, Ken.
I'm telling you, you guys had it made.
And in talking with some of the Iraqi veterans that we've been fortunate enough to have on the program, they describe Iraq. Why do we go to war in these places that are so hot? But they talk about it. It said, imagine that you're standing in front of the most powerful hairdryer in the history of the world,
right?
About 2 inches in front of it, and it's on high, as high as you can go. And he says, then throw up a handful of sand in front of your face.
Right.
And he says, and that's the way it was the whole time period that they were over there.
What's amazing is over in the Mideast there in the desert is they will put things in Ziploc bags and double Ziploc bags, and when they open them up, a day or two later, they got sand inside.
And
nobody
a big item,
figure out how it gets in there.
A big item to send them is swimmer's goggles. That's the only thing that keeps the sand out of their eyes.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And
talking with the veterans who have come back, they're still pulling sand out of various and sundry places.
Right.
Like Vietnam. Remember how long it took to wash the red dirt out of your skin?
Yeah, but then I went to Alabama. It was the same thing.
Oh, okay. In what way?
It was the red clay. I mean, it's that red dirt down there. I went from Southeast Asia to Southeast Alabama. Same. And so it was just kind of an unusual adventure. But Ken also worked as I mentioned, in Armed Forces Radio, and he was the one that would play that incredible music that we would listen to when we were in Vietnam using our automatic ADF, automatic direction finder in the helicopters we were flying, so we would know where we were in relation to the rest of the world.
How many radios would you monitor at a time when you were flying, and how?
Well, now you got to remember we were flying Model Ts. In relationship to what's going on today. So we would be listening to a UHF radio, of FM radio, a transponder radio, emergency radio. We'd be listening to the AFVN with the direction finder, and then we would be listening. Of course, we had the intercom going, sometimes 3 or 4 at the same time.
And while the green tracers were coming, you were still monitoring those radios?
Yes, sometimes. And I've got our other guest, my other host, my wingman and co-founder of Veterans Radio is on the phone, and I want to welcome Bob Gould back to Veterans Radio.
Hello there, Dale.
Hey, buddy, where are you?
I'm in Russell Springs, Kentucky.
How far is that from Fort Campbell?
Actually, it's not maybe an hour.
Okay, I thought you were time tripping back to your parachute jumping days.
Well, we've talked about it. My partner and I was helping me drive up from Florida, we kind of got stuck. We did a. Oh, by the way, I want to welcome everybody to listening to Veterans Radio, and I'm here on the road. I had a very successful trip in Florida, looking at other stations that will be carrying the show. And again, I want to thank Mr. Monahan and Mike Jones and Al.
All the people here at Ave Maria Radio.
Al, okay, good old Al, right? Okay, right. And I'm looking forward to a good run that we're going to be at WDEO.
Correct. In Ann Arbor, and WDEO FM in Florida, and WMAX in Saginaw Bay City, Michigan, currently.
And I was talking with a gentleman right here in the lobby, and Mr. Rick Connor, who was in the Army, and he's here today as part of the Patriot Guard Riders.
Right.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. We already talked with Rick.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, maybe that's why the line was busy, guys. We got to work on that. That could be. Okay. Well, we're going to be doing a show then with the PGR in Indianapolis on the 7th of July, because it's going to be a reunion for the USS Indianapolis as well as the PGR people. So it should be exciting. I'll tell you all about it when I get to Ann Arbor.
Hey, Bob, are there any people left alive from the Indianapolis?
53.
I met one of them a few years ago and got Michael J. Martin to send him a record that he did, about 20 minutes long, called $20 Bill. It was about a guy that Michael knew that was a survivor of the Indianapolis.
Well, I think we're going to have a good show down there. It'll be a remote. It's a big extravaganza for the 4th of July and the military. It's actually the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. But, of course, we're on Saturday morning, the 7th, so we will be doing it live from Indianapolis, Indiana.
You know, for the people that don't know about the Indianapolis, that was the ship that delivered the atomic bomb that was delivered over Japan, and on the way back on this top-secret mission, it was torpedoed, and because it was top secret, nobody knew it was gone. And those are the guys that were attacked by the sharks for 3 days. Right.
We're going to continue with this story and talking with Bob and the rest of the crew when we get back from our break. And we're going to be taking a break here in about 10 seconds. And we have a little segment that we call Medal of Honor. And each week we choose a Medal of Honor recipient, and we we read this citation and let people know that these people are greatly appreciated. And we'll be right back after that. You're listening to Veterans Radio.
The Medal of Honor is the highest award for valor in combat given a member of the Armed Forces of the United States. There have been over 3,400 recipients of the nation's highest award. This is one of them. Marine First Lieutenant Christian Schilt flew 10 rescue and relief missions under heavy hostile fire. Details after this. During an insurrection in Nicaragua in 1928, Schilt, then a member of a Marine expedition which had suffered severe losses in killed and wounded, volunteered under almost impossible conditions to evacuate the wounded by air and transport a relief commanding officer to assume charge of a very serious situation. Schilt bravely undertook this dangerous and important task, and by taking off a total of 10 times in the rough, rolling streets of a partially burning village under heavy hostile enemy fire on each occasion, succeeded in accomplishing his mission, thereby actually saving 3 lives and bringing supplies and aid to others in desperate need.
The Medal of Honor series is a production of Veterans Radio.
We're back on Veterans Radio, and that was our Medal of Honor, and as I said, we're going to be doing that every week. It's a production that Ken has put together now for the last couple of years, and we've gotten a lot of really great feedback. In fact, that reminded me of a story that we did here locally in Ann Arbor, as soon as I can find his name, Mr. Gutierrez. Do you remember him?
Oh, yes, I do.
From the Hispanic American Medal of Honor recipients.
We did a whole hour with him, and he went through several of the Medal of Honor recipients and highlighted their accomplishments.
I'm trying to find on my list here of guests that I brought along. He's a business owner here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he has in his boardroom all the way around. He has pictures and copies of the citation for all of the Hispanic Americans that have won not won. I understand. I know. Have received the Medal of Honor. I've earned the Medal of Honor and then have received it, and it was very impressive. And he's a great patriot and a great American, and it was really interesting to have him on the program. Again, another example of what we've talked about on the show.
It is really amazing when you walk into his facility and see all of those citations and pictures on the wall. It's really impressive.
I know, and I mean they went back to. Well, it was World War II. Went back to World War II, and all the way up through Vietnam, and there's only been 2 in Iraq right now, hasn't there?
I think 1 received and 1 nominated for it.
No, there's 2 received.
One was posthumous, though.
Right. Paul Smith was posthumous. We did the Medal of Honor in him about a year ago, I think, is when he received it. Mm-hmm. And there was another one just recently. I've got the information at home, but it slips from my mind his name.
Per capita, little town of Manchester, Michigan, I'm told, has the greatest number of Medal of Honor recipients, including the only person to ever receive the Medal of Honor in 2 different wars.
Really?
Civil War and Indian campaigns.
I'm not aware of that, Gary, and I live there.
Well,
I knew of one.
Now you know about your little town that you live in.
I'm going to have to research that.
I guess so.
Sir.
It sounds like you're going to have to do that. Well, I think that's just. I want to just kind of talk about some of the programs that we've had on Veterans Radio, again, to give our new listeners kind of a taste of what's going on. In fact, next week we're going to be, I'll let Gary plug his own show here, but we're going to be looking at an issue that has plagued American veterans forever.
PTSD. And we're going to have some experts on PTSD on the show. And there's a lot of people just won't admit that they have it. They want to deny it. And I try to make light of it and say, wear it proudly. You came by it honestly. The issue of PTSD is a severe one, and there's treatment out there and there's help out there, and we're going to learn a little bit more about it. When you learn about PTSD, what it is, what causes it, it'll be easier for you to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think so. I mean, and I know that you're the one who always tells me about these statistics about how much combat time that the military is in actual combat, face-to-face shooting at people or getting shot at has increased dramatically since the more conventional types of wars in World War I, World War II, Korea, and so forth. But, Vietnam and Iraq is the same type of conflict, is that the enemy is around you.
It is, and with no uniforms, no designated areas, no lines. And so Vietnam and Iraq, to me, the terrain's different, but the war's the same. Mm-hmm. A lot of IEDs, we called them command-detonated bombs, and command-detonated mines, I should say. Mm-hmm. They call them IEDs. They're the same thing.
It's kind of scary. I was a little anxious last night, so I wasn't sleeping 100% like I normally would. I was kind of excited about getting back on the air, and I was watching the History Channel, and they were showing the segment on the 10,000-day war. The history of the Vietnam War, and they were talking about how the North Vietnamese would take the old ordnance, unexploded ordnance that we had dropped, and how they would take it apart and utilize the C4s and the timers and the everything else that went along with it. And I'm going, times haven't changed that much as far as I'm concerned.
No, and one of the things, like with the Humvees, they're talking about the lack of armor. Well, my gosh, when you got a 155 millimeter round going off underneath your Humvee, it doesn't matter how thick the armor is.
Hey, I got a question, though. In Vietnam, did they have a lot of suicide bombers?
I don't think so. There were
not as many. There was the sappers.
The sappers.
The guys who would come through the lines.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, it seems to me, I can remember reading about, a couple of people that would blow themselves up in Saigon or something along those lines. And there were rumors, a lot of times on our missions, we did a lot of single ship VIPs type of stuff. We'd go out and take a general out and have him look around, and where children would come up toward the helicopter, and at one time, supposedly, one was rigged and blew up, and at that point, we got a directive not to let any kids near the helicopters anymore. And we had to pull our weapons out and say, no, you can't come close any longer.
They had them. Jim Uphouse over there in Manchester was with the 101st Airborne. Spent a couple of weeks back in the base camp, and it got hit. And he told me about running out of his hooch, seeing a sapper go by in the dark. He let loose with his M16, but doesn't know if he got the guy or not. But a few moments later, the headquarters bunker blew up, and it was a sapper that threw himself in there and pulled the string and set off the bomb.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why the reason I bring it up is I think that's the difference between Vietnam and Iraq, is that in Iraq you've got a lot more suicide bombers.
That's their strategy.
Right.
Whereas they did more conventional fighting probably in Vietnam. Not probably, but they definitely did more conventional fighting than they are doing in Iraq. And speaking of conventional fighting, we had a helicopter program, Dale, and you doggone guys are also modest about what you've done. And we've talked in private, and I know that you flew different types of missions. You flew at night over the fence, as it said, into Cambodia. Is that correct?
I can't tell you, otherwise I have to kill you.
Yep. Well, I've been killed before.
Yeah, our mission with the 195th is that we did fly special forces units and people across the fence into Cambodia, and we would drop off these teams, and they would do their whatever it was over there, and then we'd have to go back and get them invariably at night.
And you did not like night flying.
I don't like night driving now. And I didn't like night flying at that point.
Isn't that a sign of older age?
I think so, because we'd always mess up our night vision with somebody would, light up a cigarette behind us or something on board. And, we didn't have the night goggles like they have now.
Good day.
Everything would be in, all the things were in red lights. But other than that, it was kind of strange. But, our job was, we would do that. We would fly out of the northwest corner of 3 Corps.
And that would be down around the Parrot's Peak and the Iron Triangle?
Up around the Fishhook areas is where we were, and a place called Budap is where we would stage from, and which kind of interesting because I saw a thing on another channel, a military channel that they were talking about flying out of Budap, and I go, oh, I've been there. Another one of those nice vacation places in the world.
Shadow of the Blade, there was one guy talking that was would go in and get the Special Forces guys, and he said, the only time we were ever worried was when you guys would cover the flashlight partway with your hand and then whisper that it's all secure.
Yes, we had a mission like that where the Special Forces were surrounded by the bad guys, and we were trying to home in them on the FM radio. You can home in on a FM microphone. It beeps.
I wonder
as you go along, you get a beep, 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 and as it gets closer and closer to solid, you're getting closer, and you kind of keep turning until you get a solid tone. And so we came on the radio with the pilot or myself, I can't remember, and we said, "Could you speak up a little bit? We can't hear what you're saying," because he was telling us to come in, and we're going. He says, "I can't." He whispers, "I can't. They're right here."
Isn't that astounding?
How do they do it? I mean, it's one of the things that I have found out in doing this program is how much of a mutual admiration society that veterans have for no matter what branch of the service that you were in, you did your job and you did it to the best of your ability, and then you
do you want to know something?
Home.
You just illustrated.
You could call it old aircraft, and they provide flights in B-17s and so forth. And they had a fire in 2004, and they're rebuilding it. It sounds like it's going to be a great project. I mean, they're going to have a new exhibition building. They're planning on putting in a hotel and conference center. They want to put in a charter high school there that deals with aviation in connection with Eastern Michigan University. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, they're moving an old schoolhouse that was once an officers' club built by Henry Ford for the workers at Willow Run. Mm-hmm. And what is it, $100 million project?
$100 million.
Over 20 years.
Right, and you can find out more information if you can get on the internet and just plug in Yankee Air Museum, and you'll find out what's going on there.
What's that other story?
The other story is really a very touching story, and we talked a little bit about with our motorcycle friends. The fallen troops are getting a more dignified return home. In fact, a local company won a Defense Department contract to bring home the bodies of the people from Afghanistan and Iraq.
And that's Kalitta Airlines, and they fly out of Willow Run, right where the Yankee Air Force Museum is?
Right. And the reason for this is that unfortunately, many of the people that were coming, the bodies that were being sent back from Iraq and Afghanistan were being flown home in commercial airlines, and they were being unloaded with forklifts or coming down that conveyor belt, that the baggage would come down. And that's pretty undignified and pretty disrespectful in a lot of cases. But the story was that it was cheaper or more efficient. Let's put it that way. It was more efficient to bring these people home with that. So now they're flying on private jets, and they're going to smaller airports, getting the caskets closer and closer to home, and each one is to be met by an honor guard.
And I understand that's been going on since January, and they're
Right.
doing a great job with it. And you know what? I was looking at the difference in cost. It's less than $10 million. You know, they could look in a little corner of their waste bin.
Yeah,
and-
the potato famine
right.
subsidy and find that money. And this was all really caused by a father of one of the soldiers that was killed in Iraq in 2005, and he just felt that this is something to do, and it's one of the true bipartisan pieces of legislation that was passed quickly too.
Yes, and that's great. Duncan Hunter, congressman out of Southern California, who is a true friend of the veterans. Hope he stays in there for a long time.
Correct. Right. Let's talk about some other people other issues that we've talked about.
I've got something else I want to jump in with.
You got it.
Yeah, I just got Mark Linke stopped in. He's the Veteran Services Officer here in Washtenaw County, and brought in a flyer about the author of Flags of Our Fathers. You know that book?
He'll be here
He's going to be here April 16th at noon over at the Radisson, and they are offering free tickets to veterans. Now, in order to get a free ticket to this, you must call Mark Linke at 973-4540. Now, I think there's limited quantities, so it's going to be first come, first served.
Could you give that number again with the area code?
That number again, area code 734-973-4540, and ask for Mark Linke. Mark Linke. He's the Veteran Services Officer of Washtenaw County, and they have some tickets for the Flags of Our Fathers presentation by James Bradley. He's the author. That was the one that was made into a movie directed by Clint Eastwood and produced by Steven Spielberg.
Right, and as a matter of fact, after that, he's going to be out at the Yankee Air Museum site.
Is he really?
Yeah,
I missed that.
Right.
That's what it said.
Right.
Yes, because we were trying to figure out how we could do that on a.
I'm going to be
whatever
there
day
as
that
part of
was.
the Honor Guard. The Honor Guard has been asked to do the opening ceremony with the flags and national anthem and so on. So I'm going to be there proudly wearing my BDUs.
And Ken, I'm proud of you. You're a member of the Washtenaw County Honor Guard, which
Yes, sir.
provides funeral services for veterans who've died.
Yes, sir.
And you guys do a superb job.
And, you know, when I first started doing that, I wasn't sure how I'd react to that. But after I went to, probably 2 or 3, I was really proud of what the guys did and what it means to the families. And invariably, after almost every single funeral that we do, we have some people come up and say, thank you very much for what you've done.
It should be pointed out that every single veteran out there, at least in Washtenaw County and probably in most areas of the country, is entitled to a military honor guard.
Everywhere in the country.
And that your funeral director should be able to point you in that direction.
Exactly correct.
Because you are entitled to that, you're entitled to the flag.
Right.
And there's if
And that's
you're
all
buried,
free.
It's all free, yes.
If you're buried at a national cemetery like the one up in Holly, Michigan, the only thing you pay for is your casket and the transportation from the funeral home.
Right.
Everything at the cemetery is free, including the headstone.
Once you get in the front door, the front gate, it's all free.
And
Okay.
I'll wait.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I'm
Another example of things that you're going to learn here on Veterans Radio, all types of stories. And if you have anything that you want us to talk about, please let us know. Send us an email. Give us a call. Go to our website, veteransradio.net. There's a contact tab on there. Just click on that and you can send us the information and we'll get it on the air if at all possible. We are in the process of updating our website, and we're going to try and get as many events listed on there as we possibly can. So if you let us know, we'll put you on there.
And we have our old shows on archive up there on our website.
That's true. If you want to know what we've done in the past, some of the stories that might interest you, you can click on there. You can listen to them anytime that you want to. One of the advantages that I wanted to point out here, being on Ave Maria Radio, which is a great host for us, is that we've got fancy new technology. We're up there with the state-of-the-art people now. We can actually figure out what we're doing. For those of you that have been loyal listeners for over the 3 years, you know that we started out in about a 50-watt station with animals, and have progressed since there. But you can listen to many of our old programs on the internet. And again, we can't thank Ave Maria Radio enough. We have capabilities now of not only being on 3 stations, and we want to thank the people in Saginaw and Naples. We have internet streaming, which seems to be working on a really regular basis, which we're very excited about. And we also have the capability now of uplinking our program to a satellite. And so there may be some other stations around the country that will be on in a short period of time. We're very excited about the opportunity of being here.
If you're listening on the internet, go to your local radio stations and suggest to them that they carry Veterans Radio.
We can do that. Not a problem. Some of the other things we got next week, we've got a program coming up on PTSD. We're going to be talking with the people from military.com. 2 weeks, we're going to be talking with the author of a new biography on Dwight Eisenhower, and just on and on. We've got great stories for you, and hopefully you will keep sending us the stories. And we want to make sure that these stories get out, because we're one of the few avenues that get the veteran stories out, and it doesn't make any difference if you were a veteran in World War I all the way up through Iraqi freedom. And I know that there were only about 4 people left in World War I, but we'd be more than happy to talk to them.
Exactly. And the VA health system is looking for the final members of that class.
That's right.
1917, 1918.
Holy mackerel.
A long time ago. My grandfather was with the Royal Seaforth Highlanders in World War I. He died many years ago at the age of 72, but I've got a photograph of him and his brothers and friends going off in their kilts. Of the 6 people in the photograph, he was the only one that lived after 4 years of trench warfare. What a meat grinder of a war.
Did you hear recently, I think it was about a week or so ago, the last female from World War I died?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
But we want to make sure we get those stories. In fact, one of the projects that we are trying to get more and more involved in is the Veterans History Project, and that is to record the oral histories of veterans. And again, that's another point I want to bring out. We have the capability of going out and doing remotes now. So if there are any American Legion, VFW, veteran service organizations out there that would like to hook up with Veterans Radio and do a Saturday morning Veterans Oral History Project and record some of your members, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll figure out how to do that with you.
Dale, we talked about the VA healthcare system, and that's where I go for my healthcare. There are more stories that walk through the lobby of that one hospital in a day than Hollywood could ever use in its existence, and more than we could use. I've met some amazing people there.
Sure, and figure out how many VA hospitals there are around the country, and that's how many stories there are.
Oh, there are stories out there.
And that's what we want to do. So, again, give us a call and let us know, and we'll get you on the air, get your story saved for your family.
I'd like to see us do another story. I'd like to see us do another story on helicopter pilots and snipers. We had a sniper on there, Tom Filecki, and it was pretty emotional for him to be talking about it. But I was watching a program on the History Channel last night. The record for a female sniper was 380-some kills. And I think that was during World War II, one of those Eastern European countries. Never thought that there might be a female sniper.
That's true. We're going to wrap up.
And why not? Why wouldn't there be?
Let's join the era of political correctness.
That's right. We've got to get up here. You got to remember what town we're in, right? Correct. Again, we want to thank Ave Maria, and I know Ken, you had something that you wanted to say before we left today.
Well, yeah, but not yet. We still got about a minute to go.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what my timing was about. Gotcha.
First day jitters.
Well, another. I mentioned the stories. We're going to get you helicopter guys on there because I've heard some amazing stories, and you guys talk about it modestly. But my gosh, I can't believe the things you did. The grunts will talk about you guys sitting there very calmly, waiting for them to make it over to the helicopter with a wounded guy, and while you're getting shot to pieces.
Trust me, we weren't calm. That was our John Wayne imitation,
right?
So, what was it really like?
With all those holes appearing. You guys never took care of your helicopters, did you?
I know. We had all those Swiss cheese things in our little metal packs. Anyway, we want to thank Ave Maria Radio. Tremendous effort on their part and for us, and we'll be back next week. Ken?
We are very happy to be back on the air. It's been a long 3 months. Veterans Radio is about stories. the stories of America's veterans. That man or woman down the street that was in World War II or Korea or Vietnam. What did they do? Where were they? We want to know. We want to bring you their stories. Our mission is to provide all veterans with a voice, to give them a forum where they're able to discuss their issues, and to provide information to all veterans regarding the rights and privileges of their country. Until next week, you are dismissed.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of our guests and are not necessarily those of Veterans Radio or this station. Veterans Radio is a production of Veterans Radio